Less than 24 hours after being demolished by South Park and the Panderverse, the Walt Disney Company has announced a full one-year delay of their live-action remake of Snow White starring Rachel Zegler. And I'm sorry, but there's just way too much coincidence going on right now with all of the problems that we have seen this movie have. This one-year delay, because I just frankly do not believe that this is simply related to the SAG-AFTRA strikes. I think there's a lot more going on here, and so does John Trent from Bounding Into Comics, and we're about to have that discussion right now. Renegade Online. Well, folks, welcome back. Another great day here at Valliant Renegade. It's good to see everybody out there once again. And if you are like one of the many folks watching this video, not yet subscribed to this channel, please take a moment and turn that little red subscribe button to gray. Hit that like button, hit that notification bell, share this sucker out on the social medias, and of course, please do leave a comment before you head out the door today. Join us every Sunday afternoon right here on Valliant Renegade at 6 p.m. Eastern for the live show. What is going on with Snow White? We're going to find out right now. I'm bringing in my good buddy from Bounding Into Comics, Mr. John Trent. John, good to see you. Glad you could join us. You did a piece today, and man, we got some stuff to talk about here with Snow White, because this is weird.
Yeah, there's a lot going on with this Snow White. It's been delayed. They released a first look while announcing that it was delayed, which I thought was kind of weird. So there's lots happening, and I don't think any of it is good for the Walt Disney Company.
I don't either. And I find some of this very, very curious. So to that end, I want to bring up the article that you did today and walk us through this, John, because here's what's going on. So the Walt Disney Company has released the first look, quote unquote, at Rachel Zegler's live action remake in tandem with Disney, obviously, of Snow White. And they've delayed the release of this film one entire year. This seems to me to strike beyond just, SAG-AFTRA stuff. This begs the question of, what else is going on? So kind of walk us through here, because you did a great history. And this is what I always love about your writing, John. I'm going to put you on the spot here. You always do such great work, because you don't just write, here's what happened today. You always walk the audience back through the lineage of the story to the point that we're at now, so everything lines up and fits. So take us through this.
Yeah, so I think we'll just start with the news today. Obviously, you kind of talked about it there. We have the release date was moved from March of 2024 to March of 2025. Obviously, it's pretty close. Obviously, it's a separate year, so you have different dates for the weekends, but pretty close. And then they released this first look of Snow White. I don't know if you want to show it up here. If you scroll down, I think I have it.
Yep.
We posted it on Twitter. Basically, it's Rachel Zegler sitting in like the little room with these CGI animated dwarves surrounding her. And so that's where we got the news today, which makes one question, like, what is going on? Because if you recall, back earlier this year, there were paparazzi photos that the Daily Mail acquired from the set of the Snow White movie that they were filming in the UK that had a bunch of actual actors as these kind of 7 dwarfs. And I think there was like maybe one person with dwarfism. Of those like 7 actors, they were all very diverse. You had there was like two black people. I don't know. They were all very different ethnicities and backgrounds and everything like that. So
no indication that they were just voice actors only. And the only indication after the whole back and forth between the Daily Beast and the Daily Mail was the Daily Beast saying, "Oh, we contacted Disney. Disney said this isn't legit." But then Daily Mail stuck behind their story, and then they got confirmation from Disney, no, it is actually legit. And only 2 people, one of them being Rachel Zegler, had a stand-in in that shot. There was no indication that these were stand-ins for animated characters. No discussion from Disney up to this point that I recall that they were doing CGI characters. No denial of the story from the Daily Mail. It's just, and now we get this. So what do you think of this, John? Why are we getting this now?
Yeah, so when I first saw the story, I just knew that they were delaying it because I saw it from Variety first. I hadn't seen the first look that the Hollywood Reporter got a hold of, which is this image here. So I thought, okay, yeah, it is. They're just being delayed. They're just delaying it because of the strikes and everything like that. We already saw them. We've seen Legendary move all of their pictures, like the Godzilla and all those movies. So it's like, okay, that's normal. We just saw Mission Impossible get moved as well a whole year. So it's like, okay, that's not out of the ordinary. But then I saw this first look, and I'm just like, yeah, they're totally redoing this entire movie because they are now replacing these live action actors, these like real physical actors that they had with these clearly it looks CGI dwarfs here. So I definitely feel like they're going to be reshooting this. The whole reason why they would be doing it is because they probably need to do the reshoots. Obviously, they're still on the strike, but that gives them time to do reshoots. And then I think there was already, this is one thing I didn't include in the article, is that there was rumors, reports going on, I guess just earlier this month, or maybe it might have been last month, but relatively recently, that you had test screenings already out for this for this film, so that they were showing that. So and that they were really good. I think that was from like the Diz Insider had stuff like that. Just I think it was earlier this month. They had that stuff. So clearly something changed, and I think you saw the Daily Wire release their Snow White little teaser saying like, hey, these guys suck at it. We're gonna actually give you a live action Snow White. We've seen lots of people come out, former Disney designers come out and basically say this is absolutely atrocious what you're doing. Walt Disney would be rolling in his grave. My dad, who worked on the original Snow White, would absolutely hate this. All of these like story details that we got from Rachel Zegler are awful. And then,
no response from Disney. None to any of this stuff.
Right. And then on top of that, so there's so many different factors that are played here. On top of that, you have Nelson Peltz, who is now redoing he's getting back into the proxy battle with the Walt Disney Company. So if you're not familiar with what's going on with Nelson Peltz, I assume most of your audience is, though, since they're following you. But he was in a proxy battle with the Walt Disney Company, I believe back in January, February. Bob Iger rolled out a bunch of changes during one of the meetings. Peltz kind of was like, okay, that's cool. I'm going to sit on the sidelines and watch and see what happens. But we got a report from CNBC, I believe it was earlier this month, might have been late in last month in September. He's basically like, yeah, I now have way more. I tripled the number of shares that I had. I was thinking it was like 9 million, and now he's got 30 million. And I'm back in the game, and I want more than just my one board seat. I want multiple board seats. And that's the report, at least. We haven't seen anything official from Tryon or Nelson Peltz.
I don't think
from
we
CNBC
will.
is that he wants more. Right.
I don't think we will. Here's why, John, since you brought it up, and I haven't stated this on a video yet. I was going to talk about this Sunday, but just as a precursor to the audience, Nelson Peltz doesn't need to really have a proxy fight this time. He now has so much power that he can force his hand without really having to dig into the weeds. Now, he may still have to at the end of the day, but his position is going to put him in such a place to where they're going to have to acquiesce to a lot of what he wants, because I think he's going to be pulling more clout from other investors than most people give him credit for. But be that as it may, go ahead.
Can I just interrupt you real quick? Yeah. Just one of the things that he wants too is he sees that Disney has a creative problem. That is in the the kind of white paper that he released when he first made the proxy battle back in January, is that he sees that Disney has a creative problem. So I just want to point that out, that is one of the things that he sees as a massive problem with the company.
You're right. And that's something that folks like you and I have discussed at a regular interval. I mean, videos and articles that we've done, that Disney's creativity is dead. But getting back to this and to connect to this all, this to me strikes as a bit of desperation. A delay for an entire year on a production that was largely completed, maybe not every ounce of principal photography, but largely completed. So here's the article that Caroline Reed did in Forbes magazine, September 21st. So not even, or a little over a month ago at this point, talking about basically, not to recover the article, we did this already, but they had already spent by July 31st of 2022, not this year, but last year, they had already spent over 200 million US dollars, about 150 some odd million British pounds sterling, in actual production costs. That's a whole movie right there. And they weren't even quite finished principal photography. So to me,
right, we know that because we saw the shoots with the actors from the Daily Mail.
yeah, from
Which was,
earlier this year, which was
yeah.
like a pickup shoot or something they were doing. They had drones out there. They were doing aerial photography. My question is, John, if you're doing CGI for the seven dwarves or whatever they are now that Disney has not stipulated, or if anything have stipulated that they wouldn't be dwarves, I don't know why you would need costumed stand-ins for that. I mean, generally speaking, if you're going to digitally render characters in there, you might have seven actors in green bodysuits or orange bodysuits or blue bodysuits or whatever negative color.
Yeah, with the dots on their face and all that stuff. Yeah,
something like this, or in a studio. But it was a little bizarre to me to see that. I mean, that something doesn't jive here. And I'm not, I can't be 100% certain. All I can kind of go with is my gut reaction. But Disney had already spent a ton of money. We haven't even seen what the next report is, and we probably won't for another several months through July 31st of this year, 2023. There's probably going to be tens of millions of more production costs tacked on to what is already aggregated up to 200 plus million. Now we're delaying it for a year, John. What do you think they might be doing? Might they be doing even more reshoots, more post-production now? Are they going back to the drawing board? Because I feel like they probably are. What do you think?
I 100% feel like they have to go back to the drawing board now. I mean, there's been so much negative press around this. I mean, all the comments from Rachel Zegler about the story doesn't even sound like it's anything Snow White at all. It sounds more like Robin Hood than anything else what she's talking about. So who knows even know why they were even calling it Snow White in the first place. But so I think they're going to have to go creatively back to the entire drawing board, because I don't think anyone is absolutely interested in this movie whatsoever. And then you had all the obviously the dwarf controversy with Peter Dinklage and his comments, where you originally got the comments from a Disney spokesman responding to Dinklage's criticisms of the film, saying that they were basically reimagining the dwarfs. And then we got them in the Daily Mail, which kind of confirmed that they were indeed doing that. And now we're getting dwarfs back again. So
yeah, exactly. That's a great point, John. And I didn't even remember the quote, but I know Disney had never denied that issue. But to your point, that's true, is that Disney said that they were being reimagined. And now, how is this reimagined in this image? Let me pull this up one more time for everybody to take a look at. Okay, so John, as I look at this, I mean, I don't see reimagined dwarves. I see the seven dwarves. So again, this is just, to me, something doesn't jive. Either Disney was telling a fib then, or they're telling a fib now. And the other part of this is, why did they wait this long to just put out a production still like this? This could have satiated the rumors months ago. And I don't believe for a second that after all the principal photography they had done up to that point, that they couldn't have rendered something like this within a few days to put out to show folks. Now, this is coming out now, right as they delay the release of this film an entire year, which would give them ample time to maybe, John, what do you think? Reshoot all the scenes with the seven dwarves, go back in and start doing all of this post-production digital animation for them? Because something stinks here for me, big time.
Yeah, I definitely feel like something stinks here, because if you had this image already, or images like this, why didn't you just put this out there immediately after the Daily Mail article? Instead, you're having a spokesman go to the Daily Beast saying that the whole thing was fake and it wasn't their production. The Daily Mail saying like, no, this is clearly a Disney production. We will admit that you had stand-ins for Rachel Zegler and Andrew Burnett, but these are from the set of Snow White. And then you had a Disney spokesman basically confirming that they had lied to the Daily Beast that it was fake.
Or somebody at least at Disney didn't know what they were talking about.
Yeah,
we'll say that just for
to be charitable, right? To be charitable. But then you had another Disney spokesman, or maybe the same one. It's unclear. They don't name their name. They never name their names, right? But they told the Independent that it was real, and that was from their set, but it's not they weren't photos from the actual, like, what would be in the movie.
It wasn't necessarily principal photography. They were pickup shoots.
Right.
Like I said, they were doing drone shots. But what's interesting to me is, even if they didn't have final renderings like this available in July, surely, absolutely, they would have had some type of artist's rendering from early in pre-production phases of what the dwarves were going to look like this. They could have shown anything like that. They could have shown a still image. That wouldn't have spoiled anything. That wouldn't have upended the movie. I mean, people know what this movie is, and they could have tamped down on all of this this discussion online by doing something simple. But we're getting this now, which
exactly. And if you recall, the stuff with the Daily Mail saw people go back and find all of that D23 footage from last September with Zegler making all of those comments to Entertainment Tonight, to Entertainment Weekly, to Variety, et cetera, et cetera. So then it kind of like snowballed into an even bigger problem, because it was like people were figuring out like, holy crap, this is not even a Snow White movie. Where they're totally changing everything about it.
Well, so, that's just
they could have headed it all off by like, hey, this is actually what we're doing. And people would be like, okay, this actually looks like Snow White, but they decided to do it now when they're delaying the movie, when they're making an announcement about delaying the movie. So I think your nose is right. It definitely smells really bad. And I have to like, I think it makes sense that they are going to be doing significant reshoots on this film to probably change the entire story. And then obviously they're changing how the dwarfs play in this movie as well.
One final question to your point there, John. Is Rachel Zegler herself the biggest impediment to this film's success? Yes or no?
I'm going to say no. And that might be controversial. Obviously, I think she is a huge impediment, but I think Disney is their own impediment.
I would agree with that. No, I think like Rachel Zegler certainly isn't helping.
She can talk about the story. She didn't write the story.
That's just it. Yeah, I long lament actors going out there and making these social and political diatribes about the films they're in, especially when they're classic intellectual property like this, family entertainment from decades old that made the biggest entertainment company in the world as famous as it is, at least back in 1937, and then decide to tell the audience, oh no, we're not making that movie again. We're making something for not you. We're making it for modern audiences. And again, as I like to say nowadays, those modern audiences never seem to materialize, at least not in the numbers that Disney desperately needs to justify these radically overpriced budgets. Right now, like we said, folks, as of July of last year, $200 million, that figure is probably going to rise. I would bet, John, well north of 300 million US dollars. And that's before a dime in marketing. This may be a movie that will need to get somewhere close to $1 billion in theaters just to break even. And
Disney movies don't do that. Disney live action movies, they might have done that back with like Beauty and the Beast and Lion King, but we've seen that they do not do that. They have not done that post pandemic.
No, people are getting tired of the rehashes, and as South Park so hilariously dove into in the last 24 hours as we record this, I think they've hit the nail on the head with the pandering and or as I called it in the video Friday, the virtueless virtue signaling. So, but thank you, John, for being here. Make sure you guys check out Bounding Into Comics. Want to thank John so much for all of his yeoman's work on putting these stories together and tracking them down. And we're going to stay tuned to see what happens with Disney and Snow White, because I have a feeling this is nowhere near the end of this one. But thanks for joining us. And until next time, take care. Make sure you're subscribed to Valliant Renegade and join us every Sunday at 6 p.m. Eastern for the live show.